You ever wake up and feel like your body's staging a protest you weren't invited to? Like the knees decided overnight they'd had enough, the back's auditioning for a horror film soundtrack, and the brain still stuck on dial-up speed? A neighbor of mine, Benny, 78, sharp as a tack but used to creak like a rusty gate, told me something recently that made me spit out my coffee. He said, "I feel younger now than I did 10 years ago, and it's all because I reversed my morning routine." Reversed it, not added some expensive supplement or joined a high-tech cryo chamber club, just flipped the script on how he starts his day. Now, before you roll your eyes and mutter something about the latest TikTok trend, don't worry, no one's dancing here. Just consider this. Benny used to shuffle around like most of us, groaning through his morning stiffness, dreading the idea of stairs, avoiding mirrors unless absolutely necessary. But something changed, and the results were so obvious that even his doctor, the one who usually just pats his hand and says, "Well, that's just aging," stood there blinking like he'd seen a ghost. Benny's secret isn't some secret at all. It's an intentional reshaping of his morning from the moment he opens his eyes. You know how we were raised to believe breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Well, turns out what you do before that bowl of oatmeal might matter, even more. And we're not talking about doing 100 push-ups before sunrise or plunging into an ice bath like a Navy SEAL in training. No, this is practical stuff. Gentle movements, a shift in timing, even the order of small actions that cue the body to wake up differently. The irony. It's the kind of simple, common-sense stuff that's been buried under decades of fitness fads, marketing gimmicks, and that strange obsession the modern world has with making everything either complicated or subscription-based. Remember when coffee came in just two forms, black or with cream, and not as a 13-word order with oat milk and foam art? That's the kind of overkill we're avoiding here. Benny's shift made such a difference that he started walking the block again, joining his grandson's weekend hikes, and even outpaced a guy 20 years younger at the senior center's Tai Chi class. And no, he didn't win a medal, though he did get a cookie, which, frankly, is better. But here's the thing. What Benny's doing isn't magic, and it's not one-size-fits-all. It's based on rethinking what aging really means in the morning. Hours when our bodies are the most honest. That's when the stiffness, fog, and fatigue hit hardest, but it's also the time we have the most power to shape how the rest of the day, and maybe even the rest of our lives, plays out. And if you're already thinking, "Sure, but I've been doing mornings the same way since Eisenhower was in office," well, that's exactly why it might be worth giving a small change a chance. Not because we're chasing youth with a net, like it's some wild animal, but because we've earned the right to wake up feeling good, not just surviving the morning like it's a boot camp. What Benny did, and what others are now doing, isn't about looking 20 again. It's about not feeling 80 when you're only in your 70s. It's about dignity in motion, clarity in thought, and yes, maybe even a little sass in your step when you head out to the mailbox. So hang tight, because we're about to dig into exactly what this reversed ritual looks like, why it works, and how you can make it your own, no matter how many birthdays you've celebrated or how many grandkids are waiting to be impressed. Now, when Benny started talking about this so-called reverse morning, the first thing folks asked him, after they made sure he wasn't pulling their leg, was, "What exactly did you stop doing?" And the answer surprised everyone. He stopped. Reaching for the phone first thing, that simple. No weather check, no news scroll, no dramatic headlines about things he can't control. Instead, he opened his eyes, sat still for a moment, and just breathed. Sounds too simple, right? But that pause, that quiet check-in before launching into the noise of the world, did something powerful. It told his nervous system, you're not in a hurry. No alarms blaring, no frantic pace. It's a little like how we used to wake up back when mornings were about sunrise and birds, not beeping rectangles. Then he stood up, slowly, intentionally, and instead of shuffling to the kitchen or heading to the bathroom, like it's a race. He went to a small area in his living room where he kept a chair, a towel, and a little mat. He called it his morning zone, which sounds fancy, but is really just a patch of carpet with purpose. Now, here's where it gets interesting. He doesn't stretch after his walk. He stretches before even putting the coffee on. And not the kind of stretching that looks like an Olympic warm-up. This is more like reaching to the side, rolling the shoulders, opening the chest, and waking up the spine with gentle twists. He told me, "It's like I give my body a polite invitation to be alive, instead of dragging it out of bed like an old lawnmower." And the man's got a point. Our bodies, especially after 60, respond better to kindness than shock therapy. One lady at the community center, Teresa, widow, 2-time grandmother, strong as an ox and twice as stubborn, started doing the same thing and swore her arthritis stopped making that creaky door sound before lunch. And she's not one to exaggerate unless you ask her about her meatloaf recipe. But that's the pattern we're seeing. This calm, unrushed sequence that starts before the morning madness takes hold is changing how seniors feel throughout this day. The body seems to cooperate more when it's treated like a partner instead of a stubborn mule. And here's the kicker. Benny doesn't even drink his coffee until nearly an hour after he wakes up now. Blasphemy, I know. But by then, his blood pressure's settled, his joints are looser, and his brain's been gently brought online, not yanked into action like it's being summoned for jury duty. And when he does drink that coffee, he enjoys it. No multitasking, no mail sorting, just sitting and sipping like a man on vacation. And don't laugh, but that shift in timing actually improved his digestion, according to his doctor. Something about not dumping caffeine into a half-asleep gut apparently works wonders. Then there's the breakfast switch. Remember when every ad pushed cereal like it was the fountain of youth in a box? Well, Benny swapped the carbs for protein, eggs, Greek yogurt, or the occasional leftover chicken thigh, and suddenly found his energy didn't crash at 10 a.m. like it used to. One of the guys at the Senior Golf League said Benny started out-driving him after that change, and he's still bitter about it. But that's the beauty of this reversed ritual. It's not about extreme habits or new gadgets. It's about sequence, timing, and gentle intention. The things we all used to know before the world convinced us aging meant slowing down until you disappeared into a recliner. So the next time you find yourself waking up and thinking, is this just how it is now? Maybe the answer isn't in another pill or expensive gadget, but in the order of the first few things you do before you even speak to another human. Because those early moments set the tone, not just for the day, but for how your body believes it's supposed to feel. And more folks are realizing that a small shift in that first hour might just buy them back a few good years. No, time machine required. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, this all sounds nice, but does stretching and breakfast swapping really reverse aging? Well, it depends on what you mean by reverse. Benny doesn't have the knees of a teenager or the skin of a movie star. But what he does have now is energy that lasts through the day. Fewer aches, better focus. And this one really got the doctor. A heart rate and blood pressure that dropped back into the range of someone 2 decades younger. Not bad for a man who used to measure his mornings by how many times he could hit the snooze button. And the reason this works isn't because it's trendy or backed by influencers in yoga pants, but because it honors the way the body naturally wants to wake up, especially a body with 6 or 7 decades under its belt. One neighbor, Raj, used to joke that his joints sounded like microwave popcorn in the morning. Now, he's the first one to finish his walk around the park, and the last one to stop talking about it. And that's the thing. Once people try this simple shift, they can't not talk about it. And listen, if any part of this video so far has made you go, maybe I should try that, or reminded you of something your own body's been hinting at, then I'd honestly recommend hitting that subscribe button. Not because it's the trendy thing to say. Heaven knows most of us remember when TVs had antennas and subscriptions meant magazines. But because we're building something here, a community of folks who are tired of being told that aging is just a slow decline into forgetfulness and fiber supplements. If you've found any of this helpful, or even just a little curious, you'll want to stick around for what's coming. Next, we got more simple strategies, real stories from real people like Benny and Teresa, and practical steps you can take that don't require a second mortgage or a personal trainer named Chad. Subscribing means you'll be the first to hear about what's actually working for people over 60, not what some 20-something thinks might work if you just buy their smoothie powder. And if nothing else, it's nice to know you're not the only one navigating this weird chapter of life with a little humor, a little skepticism, and a lot of wisdom. All right, back to Benny's morning. After stretching and his protein-rich breakfast, there's one more thing he added that really threw people off. He started walking before checking his messages, turning on the TV, or reading the newspaper. He said he noticed that when he waited until later in the day, his body already felt stiff again, like someone hit the pause button too long. But by taking a 10-minute stroll right after breakfast, just around the block or even pacing indoors. If it's raining, he kept everything in motion. His doctor said it helped regulate his blood sugar and kept his joints from locking up like an old filing cabinet. And don't laugh, but Benny claims this early walk did more for his memory than any brain game app ever could. Said the rhythm of walking in silence let his mind wander, solve problems, and even remember where he left his glasses, which for him was a small miracle. And others noticed too. Maria, who lives 3 doors down, said she started doing the same thing and suddenly had more patience for her grandkids' chaos and fewer headaches in the afternoon. And no, we're not promising a miracle cure here. This isn't snake oil or a time travel pill, but the body responds to rhythm. When it knows what to expect and when to expect it, especially in the morning, it stops firing off alarms and starts working with you. That's the quiet power of reversing your morning. It's not dramatic, but it builds momentum, and that momentum can carry you further than you thought possible. So if you've been feeling like your days are dragging, like you're stuck in a fog that lifts only around lunchtime, it might not be age. It might be the way your mornings begin. And the good news? You're in charge of that part. You still get to choose what kind of day you're going to have, starting with those first 15 minutes. And as we'll see next, there are even more small shifts, mental ones, not just physical. That can make a big difference when the sun comes up tomorrow. Now let's talk about the mental side of this whole morning reversal. Because as much as joints and digestion matter, what really takes the cake is how it affects the mind. You know how sometimes you wake up and your thoughts are already racing like they're trying to beat the coffee to the finish line? That low-grade anxiety about bills, health stuff, or the news? Benny realized that even when his body started feeling better, his mind still needed a tune-up, especially first thing in the morning. So he did something that might sound a little woo-woo to some of us, but stick with me here. He started writing down 3 things he was grateful for before he looked at a screen. Not in a fancy journal either, just a beat-up notepad from the grocery store and a pen that only worked if you scribbled it first. But every morning, like clockwork, he'd jot down 3 small things. A good night's sleep, the way the sun hit the kitchen window, or that the neighbor's dog finally stopped barking through the night. Nothing dramatic, just enough to reframe the day. And over time, something funny happened. He started noticing the good stuff more often, even before writing it down. One day he told me, "I used to wake up and brace myself. Now I wake up and look for something good. And science backs this up too. Not that we need scientists to tell us how we feel, but still, it turns out gratitude shifts your brain chemistry, helps you feel calmer, more focused, and less likely to pick a fight with the toaster when it burns your bread." And if you're thinking this all sounds like a nice idea but won't work for you because your mornings are chaos or your partner's routine clashes with yours, here's the thing. You don't have to overhaul your life. Nobody's asking you to become a monk or buy a yoga mat the size of your living room. Just start with 5 minutes, even if your spouse is blasting the TV or the dog's howling to go out. Carve out your quiet space, even if it's just in your mind. There's a woman named Louise who swears by this. Lives in a tiny apartment with her adult son and 2 grandkids under 5. Chaos doesn't begin to describe it, but she gets up 10 minutes earlier than the rest and sits by the bathroom window with a cup of warm water and lemon, not tea, not coffee, just lemon water, and breathes. No phone, no talking, just being. She said it's the only time of day she feels like her mind belongs to her. And wouldn't you know it, since starting that habit, she hasn't had a single migraine. And her doctor lowered her anxiety medication. Dose. It's not magic, it's intention. And yeah, there will be days when it all falls apart. The alarm doesn't go off, the dog throws up, the neighbor decides 6:15 a.m. is the perfect time to start mowing. But that doesn't mean the whole day is ruined. The beauty of a reversed morning is that you can always come back to it tomorrow. No guilt, no pressure, just a fresh chance. And yes, it takes time to make it stick. Some folks get frustrated when they don't feel better in 3 days. But look, we didn't get these aches, foggy brains, or stressed out nerves overnight. Years of habits brought us here, and that's okay. We're not trying to erase the past. We're just trying to build better mornings going forward. And honestly, isn't that one of the perks of getting older? You've seen enough to know that big change rarely happens all at once. It's the small shifts, the little choices, the quiet revolutions that actually last. Besides, the younger generations can keep their protein shakes and 4 a.m. cold plunges. We've earned the right to find wisdom in stillness, to move with purpose, and to drink our coffee after we've taken care of our body and mind. And if some 20-something thinks that sounds lazy, they can talk to us again when they've lived through dial-up internet, disco, and shoulder pads the size of dinner plates. But in all seriousness, this isn't about proving anything to anyone. It's about reclaiming your own rhythm in a world that constantly tries to rush you. Because aging doesn't have to mean fading. Sometimes it just means doing things differently, smarter, not harder. And as we wrap this up in the next part, you'll hear how these small shifts actually turned into something bigger for folks like Benny, Louise, and Raj. Real transformation, not flashy but steady, the kind that lasts. So here's where it all comes together, not in some dramatic before and after photo or a product pitch promising eternal youth, but in the quiet, consistent changes that stack up over time and actually start to matter. Benny, who once spent his mornings hunched over the kitchen table trying to will himself awake, now says his biggest challenge is finding enough books to read because his brain is clearer than it's been in years. Teresa, who used to joke that her back and knees had a secret competition over which could betray her, first, now leads a gentle movement group at her local rec center. She said it started with 5 minutes of stretching in her pajamas, and now she's inspiring others to get up and move. No leotards or spandex required, just a willingness to begin. And Raj? He's walking farther, sleeping better, and this one surprised him. He says he's actually enjoying mornings for the first time in his life. Not tolerating them, enjoying them. These aren't rare stories. They're not miracle cases. They're just people like you and me. People who got tired of feeling like each day started 2 steps behind and decided to flip the script. And, sure, reversing your morning won't erase every ache, fix every diagnosis, or stop the grandkids from FaceTiming you at 7 a.m. on a Sunday, but it can give you something powerful, a sense of control, of rhythm, of peace. That's the real magic. Starting your day for yourself instead of reacting to the chaos around you. And listen, if any part of this resonated, if you're sitting there nodding or even just thinking, maybe I could try a little of that, then now's the time to act. You don't need a full plan. You just need to start. Try one small thing tomorrow morning. Maybe it's stretching your arms over your head before you reach for the remote. Maybe it's writing down one good thing before the news. Or maybe it's Taking your first cup of tea outside just to breathe in something fresh before the day kicks in. And while you're at it, go ahead and tap that like button, hit subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Not just because it helps the channel, though it does, but because your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. We're building something here, a real supportive community of folks who've seen decades of trends come and go and are finally ready to create mornings that serve them, not stress them. And trust me, we've got more coming. More ideas, more stories, more simple shifts that can make your 60s, 70s, and 80s feel a whole lot lighter. So stay tuned. Don't let this just be another video you watch and forget. Let it be the spark. And I'd love to hear from you. What's one small change you could try tomorrow morning? One thing just for you, no matter what the world's shouting at you before breakfast. Drop it in the comments below. Your voice matters. And remember, it's never too late to rewrite the script, even if it's just the first scene of your day. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me here. It means more than you know. And hey, if nobody's told you this yet today, you're doing better than you think, and tomorrow's got promise written all over it.